regular season had picked D6 to contend the first ever title of Hogs champion. Castor was still looking like the favorite after an almost flawless run in which only a few players were able to truly rival him. And even among these, Herpderp was the only one to take 3 points home from him. I was confident I was at least close to his level. My mix of cheeky tactics and bold plays had brought me to second place, and I felt like I was ready to take on anybody. Machetino, the silent ninja assassin, had honestly few highlights in the group stage, but that's because his extremely straightforward and damage-focused style rarely left any wiggle room for his opponents, although he tended to struggle a bit when Plan A didn't work in his matches. Fox, despite everything, was still his ice-cold and poison-throwing self, while Pinstripe, the main link between the Discord and YouTube community of Hogs of War, had suffered highs and lows during his group run. However, he was still the best long-range player in 2020. And although gunners were severely underused back then, that didn't mean mortars and bazookas didn't play an important role. And then we had Herpderp, the Hogs of War wiki, and player who somehow managed to score kills and plays from the other side of the world on crazy input lag like he was sitting right next to you. A significant change coming into play was switching to matches now being best of 5s. This brought higher fatigue to the players, but it was traded off with more balanced matches that were less subject to situational randomness. With me and Castor skipping round 1, the first 2 playoff matches held on the 14th of November were Fox vs Pinstripe and Machetino vs Herpderp. Pin and Fox started on the absolutely dreaded Bridge the Gap. Always a great first map to start a playoff run, right? Fox brought a weird lineup even for that time standards: Medic, Grenadier, 3 Scouts. Pin took the lack of paratroopers as a cue to invade and take the airburst crates on Fox's side, while dumping every shot on the most dangerous pig, the Grenadier. Fox missed the only chance for a cluster due to lag, and Pin managed to finish a poor Grena in just 2 moves. With him down, Fox was left to snipe Pin to death, and the constant 40s managed to keep the advantage of the blue team from growing too large, while also baiting Pin to expose his own medic. With him dealt with and gone, Fox was free to unleash his poison hounds. The tension was building, with shots being missed on either side. Iron Fox's 3 scouts all quickly fell below 20 HP, but while doing so they managed to build 3 skip turns on Pin. The British player still had an almost full HP paratrooper, but using the first 2 skips, Fox brought him down to 25, which left Pin with just 1 chance to win, before Fox would completely turn it around. Problem is that for this terrifying task, Fate chose a dying scout in a terrible position and in need to hit an enemy he couldn't see.
Okay, now it's...
Say it looks to the left. He is more on the right side.
Oh! He missed it!
This and the following turn created one of the biggest moments in the history of Hogs of War League.
Oh my god, can you feel the pressure in there right now?
I can.
He's aiming a second time.
Iron Fox is glaciing.
Oh! I think that's it.
Cold. And
No!
he misses!
What?
What?
How
We thought it
that
was a
miss?
hit! What? But Pin still needs to get this.
Oh my god.
How is that even possible? We were sure it would hit!
I don't know. For me it was a clear hit as well.
My god! Can Pil end this now?
Oh, that could be. Oh no,
got
it
it.
was fraud. He got it. Oh my god, that was
my
close.
god, what a start, everybody!
Oh, that was a good game 1.
A fatal miss, probably by no more than a couple pixels, put Pin ahead on score. Fox is known for being cold in tough moments, but the game just trolled him at the worst possible time, with honestly little indication that the shot would fail from the player's perspective. Map 2, Graveyard Shift, would be the ultimate task for him, with Pin going first. But the Finnish player had a plan. Uncharacteristically for his safe playstyle, he started the map with 2 sappers, placing the 2 strongest pigs, Medic and Grenadier, as 4th and 5th. Despite that, Pin started with what is now considered to be the best strategy in any quote-unquote beginner map. Later named the Medic on Medic action, or MOMA in short, it is simply the act of tranquilizing the enemy medic while also body blocking him, to protect your own medic from damage. And that's where Fox unveiled his plan. Blue Grenadier had spawned next to the graveyard wall, a perfect chance to throw him in the most annoying spot in the map. Due to the rule preventing wall climbing, he would be stuck there for the rest of the match. Nowadays, you're allowed to climb out of there with an exception to the rule, but in 2020, exploiting this on Graveyard Shift was rule number 1. Combining this with a clever use of body blocks left little chances of dealing damage for Pin's most valuable pig. However, unexpectedly, Pin's other ground troops did a much better job at dealing damage than Fox's, once again choking his own Grenadier turn in the only chance he got to use it, as well as another couple of questionable turn choices that led Pin to take a 2-0 advantage on a, I have to say this, don't I?
Comfortable
margin. Map 3, P-Drag, was the last chance to jump back in for Fox. With how much we've been mentioning it in the previous part as well, and with the fact that it's the only map of Season 1 that doesn't look anything like the original game, I probably owe you an explanation. What the F is P-Drag? Well, even before Pinstripe was involved in the remake, he had already set on a journey to dismantle Hogs of War one tiny Lego piece of code at a time. And in doing so, he stumbled on unused maps like this one, whose codename in the files is P-Drag. A simple set of squares with tiles that look slippery, but they aren't, strips of lands that look like minefields, and they are, and really nothing much else going for it. I mean, I don't think I need to tell you this isn't the finished map, do I? However, with a little bit of bit connecting work, no crypto, this claustrophobic green prison was decorated with 2 mesh tents, a few walls, 2 random health crates that give either 10, 20, or in rare cases 50 HP, and most importantly, 2 tanks, something that was unseen in any other map in multiplayer, let alone competitive. I won't get into details, but for a long time modding has been very limited if not impossible. So this grimy green sauce valley, so unstable that had to be saved on a separate file, was somewhat of a miracle. And it would remain the only modded map for a very long time too. Plus, the tanks had a very interesting gimmick. They are equipped with an airburst that for whatever reason doesn't spread its fragments as much as the regular one, allowing for much higher damage outputs. Once that is out of the way, tanks only have a regular bazooka, even though if you used one of these you know that the word regular itself is a bit of a stretch. They sport 80 HP, and also on this map, each tank destruction drops a high explosive grenade in the middle area, a handful weapon that can deal 60 HP of damage. Long story short, these 2 cardboard excuses for a go-kart alone make this map one of the most fun ones to play, throwing a big wrench in the usual which pig goes first discussion. Back to the match at hand, the lineups reflected the aforementioned dilemma. Fox was going to start with his Grenadier, not to throw a cluster but to catch a tank, with the hope of getting a big hit done while saving the clusters for later on. The airburst didn't work that well, but it caused Pin to fail his body block, leaving Fox to choose between taking another airburst or trying to use a trank himself on a tight time limit. Or, as I put it in commentary back then,
Basically gave him a choice. Either you stop the trank or leave me the tank.
Stop the tank. Yeah, that was great.
So Fox had managed to put his most 2 valuable pigs inside tanks, but that was short-lived, because Pin not only destroyed them very fast, but even had a paratrooper ready to grab the high explosive grenades. Fox crucially forgot to take care of Pin's Grenadier while all this was happening. And when this guy manages to throw all 3 of his clusters, it rarely results in his team losing. The confidence in Pin's shots growing every turn didn't help either, and at that point the final blue sapper just had too much health for Fox. Pin won 3-0, a result that would be considered a shocker by many, which were definitely expecting a closer ending. But Pinny Boy held his own and gained access to the first semi-final against Castor. The community was expecting a similarly not very close match on the other side of the bracket, where Machetino was facing Herpderp. I mean, Herpderp is a brilliant player, but he has a big disadvantage in playing on Parsec, and he's certainly not as consistent as Machetino, who was a certified bulldozer back then with his style. Well, ladies and gentlepigs, what we got instead was an absolute nail-biter. As it's tradition with playoffs, we start off on a brutal map, the Lake. Drama ensues immediately, with 2 back-to-back one-turn kills failed by barely a pixel each. Then the first turning point, Machetino's second turn, where with a perfectly timed managed TNT, he's able to get the only medic of the game out of commission. The guys just kept trying to capitalize on the insane damage potential of this map, but with surprisingly little success in getting kills when it came to hitting high health pigs. With the match picking up rhythm, Herpderp's insane lag was unfortunately about to knock at his door. Hold on, Caster's calling me?
Angela,
Yes?
you can't make that joke.
Why not?
Herpderp doesn't have a front door.
Right. So Herpderp missed 2 guided missile shots completely. It's a shame considering he was somehow an absolute beast that lagged bazooka shots instead. The damage advantage accumulated by Machetino proved to be too high, and body blocks could only help so much. When a player like Mache knows he's in front, he has no problem hitting his own pigs if it brings the enemy closer to defeat. Although beefed up by health crates, Herpderp's last paratrooper couldn't beat the Yellow Army by himself. 1-0 for Machetino. Dam Busters was now on the menu. After a juicy beginning, the game had to be restarted due to technical issues, but the guys just repeated their strategy a second time, so there were no other problems going forward. Said strategy consisted of trying to collect as much health from the other player's side and then just throw shots at each other like there's no tomorrow. You know, ordinary Dam Busters things. Both players dealt with the respective infiltrates quickly, Machetino going for his trademark jetpacks and some poison, while Herpderp threw in some really good group ups and close combat to deal with yellow pigs that dared to cross the barricade. Once again, a few hiccups in the technical side for both players, but eventually they decided they wanted the battle to be on just one side of the barrier. And this is where the momentum shifted, with Machetino miscalculating a poison skip and Herpderp showing us some magnificent long-range skills. Once again, remember the 0.2 seconds delay thing? Machetino didn't give up though, retaliating with a nice paratrooper combo and a crucial double poison to put big pressure on half of Herpderp's remaining team. His only chance of getting this game back was to get those skips and hope that Herpderp missed a few bazookas from his still very healthy gunner on top of the dam. That hope would be short-lived though, because Herpderp's bazooka delivered once again, and when the skips came, it was too late. 1-1. Game 3 was on the old Pigs in Space. I put the emphasis on old because the big problem of the original version was some very uneven spawns, which put Herpderp at a significant disadvantage. In fact, Machetino started with a paratrooper with the sole purpose of grouping enemies up to wreak havoc on them next turn with the Grenadier. The lag gods had a different plan though, and Herpderp's own risky cluster didn't do better. So once the strategies were out the window for both players, it was time for an old-fashioned fist fight. And I do mean old-fashioned. Before we could look away for a second, Herpderp had demonstrated he could take Machetino head-to-head, as his lack of a medic proved to be too risky of a choice. A very quick and brutal beating left one yellow scout against the world, and Herpderp was able to catch the lead with the prospect of going first in Ridgeback to finish the job. You may be noticing a trend, but this map was also complete chaos back then. It was not rare at all to lose pigs like butterflies here. Wait, butterflies can actually explode in hogs? Huh. Anyway, once again the first turns were surprisingly lackluster for both players, mostly due to mines not being cooperative. Machetino was once again running without a medic, and even his Grenadier was surprisingly low on his lineup. Much like the previous match, this strategy turned out to be a trap for Herpderp though. Opening up with sappers and a paratrooper gave the yellow team the ability to better exploit the extremely dangerous spawns of Ridgeback with the precise knockback TNTs and jetpacks can give, while simultaneously repositioning these pigs to safer areas. The Grenadier was there as a straight-up damage bait, which Herpderp couldn't help but fall for, because after all, letting a Grenadier move is a bad choice anyway. Problem is, pigs that can produce good damage with consistent knockback are just as dangerous on this map, and like the old saying goes, you don't want to let Machetino do what he wants. The cherry on top was Herpderp's very questionable choice of using his strengths on a scout, and just like that, it was 2-2, which means time to take another trip on good old Chill Hill. By the fact that I'm going so much in detail with playoffs matches, you might have guessed the fact that I rewatched them all, and I have to say, they're kind of a breath of fresh air. Don't get me wrong, I love how much the game has evolved since then, but there's something about watching legit good players, devoid of map optimization, just trying to figure out the best move on the spot, that is genuinely entertaining. Herpter vs Machetino is probably the best example of this. Think about it, it's two dudes from opposite sides of the world who don't even speak a common language, going at it with the only help of their empirical knowledge of the game that they have accumulated through their lives.
Wow, that's deep.
Thank you, Revan. Anyway, the point is, these two went for different approaches on almost every single map, even those that we take for granted nowadays. And even on Chill Hill, even on the final showdown, each went with their own recipe. After Herpter went for the first artillery in a decent 1000-pound shell, Machetino decided to completely ignore Herpter's vehicle and go for easy damage. Despite an inconsistent accuracy with the artillery's elusive shells, he did get 2 kills in the process, although Herpter's damage was creeping in, and he still had a full health grenadier as a major threat for a comeback. This is the point where the fight between those two, as it's common by now, turned into a beautiful chess match.
3v3.
Just go for it.
That doesn't have enough range, I don't think. I could be wrong.
Oh, he
though.
does.
Oh,
The hunter shot. He's going again on the top of the artillery. I mean, what is even the point? I don't know. But, okay,
A safe place to heal, I guess. Yeah.
But look at this.
Wait.
Poison shot.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Oh,
That was a great
What
time.
was that? I didn't know it could happen.
Herpter is saying, "Get off my artillery, dude." He has to get rid of it. He goes for the mines,
God.
though.
Oh, what's it doing? Is it gonna work?
No. But if he jumps out, I mean, what? If
Oh no!
Oh my god, he was so lucky with the mine! Oh my god, he was so lucky with the mine!
Ultimately, we got to this situation where Herpter ran out of artillery weapons. On 2 paratroopers versus 1, Herpter was forced to get out. He tried to collect the F-frame crate, which was still standing there on its usual spot, but ended up overthinking on the way to use it, thus sealing the match's fate at the end of the turn. After an excruciating but incredibly entertaining to watch battle, Machetino emerged victorious and advanced to the semifinals, where he would face me the following day. Oh yeah, have I mentioned that the entire playoffs bracket of 2020 was resolved in a weekend? Essentially, if one of the players starting from round 1 were to get to the final, he'd play 3 best of 5s in 2 days, which is absolutely unthinkable for today's league. After a good night's rest, the semifinalists were back on the battlefield for day 2. That same afternoon, we would know our first champion. Castor and Pinstripe's semi-final kicked off on Skullduggery, with heavy hits immediately on the table. With the long-range guys being stuck on Faraway Island and the heavy hitters doing their work on the main one, games started off seemingly ordinary until Pin decided to invade Castor's stranded gunner, but not before Castor himself fired off a beautiful mortar shot that effectively sealed Pinstripe's own stranded sapper. Pin started to take the pressure, failing to kill Castor's gunner with a cattle prod and losing his medic due to poison. And then Castor proceeded to do this.
And probably shoot a bazooka in a chance to get the hit on the sapper. No, he's going for the... Wow! I was not expecting that shot. It was an amazing bazooka shot from Castor.
It was clear at this point Castor would take map 1, so cleanup was all that was left. Once again, Dam Busters was map 2, and their strategy was exactly the same as Machetino and Herpter had gone for the day before. Castor started on the back foot, failing to get a bazooka out in both of his first 2 turns due to timer constraints. And Ping figured out that when you expect to be invaded, having a grenadier as a guard hog is not a bad idea. In fact, the guys invaded each other so much that 3 minutes into the game you had a hard time telling who started on which side. But thanks to the heavier hitters, Pin had done a great job on both sides of the dam. So much that Castor had to fly away just to regroup and think about what to do. Pin, however, had saved the jetpack for his grenadier and made sure to communicate to the purple team that he had other plans. At this point, both sides and also the top had Pin on a numerical advantage, and on the fastest dam busters of all time, Pin survival bonused Castor to a 1-1. The Austrian player was back to square one on Hedge Maze, but knowing he'd go first with a scout already gave him a head start, as the initial spawns are great for multiple poisons. Hedge Maze, despite being a very fun map, is not in a pool anymore due to the most annoying mechanic in all of Hogs of War, the out of bounds kill. Essentially, maps in Hogs have two limits, the skybox and the out of bounds limit. If a pig is made to touch the skybox, it's immediately killed off. And that's why the out of bounds limit exists, to prevent pigs from reaching the skybox during their turn. However, when a pig gets thrown between the two limits, the out of bounds area, the game behaves in a very specific way. To try to get the pig back in bounds, 8 possible lines are drawn, and one direction that allows a safe return is picked. If none of them are viable, however, the game gives up and kills the pig off. That is essentially the problem. On a lot of maps, the way slippery tires are laid out tricks the game into thinking the pig is beyond saving, and that doesn't even fully explain all of the cases where this happens. Simply put, we just know that some specific areas and some specific maps produce a 100% chance of seeing your pig explode like a third-class firecracker for no apparent reason. And back then, not even the 8 directions thing was known, creating games like this one where both Castor and Pin are randomly throwing pigs out of bounds just to hope that the game grants them an extra kill. They would get one each, but the poisons and Castor's Grenadier dealing great damage while Pin's was blocked off by the medic proved to be too much to handle for the blue team. On a side note, EPSXC, yeah, I know, crashed 2 times during this one. Thank the heavens they were making save states. Castor was once again ahead though, earning his first match point on one-way system. A classic for some, an absolute Russian roulette of madness for others. It's another one of those maps where safety is an illusion, consisting of a big central building connected to 2 strips of land that extend to opposite corners of the map. These places are actually the safest, being far away from water and being this one of the few maps where the out of bounds area doesn't pose any threat. The main issue though is the middle part, full of slippery tiles that lead to water, which causes pigs to swim for so long to find a walkable shore that in some specific points of the map the devs said fuck it and implemented an instant death trigger. The most interesting trait of the map is the walkable path in the center of the structure, a continuous S kind of shape which, due to some cleverly placed slippery tiles, is intended to walk, as the name of the map itself suggests, in just one direction. It was meant to be impossible to escape once you jumped in, but there are some tricks the player can use, like perfectly timed jumps on the angle tiles or walking around the edges of slippery walls near the water. These 2 tricks alone effectively allow you to get anywhere on the map, provided you have the mobility skill for it. Rocket launchers and TNTs are prominent, but the most important crate is definitely the ×3 guided missile in the middle, protected by a small but potentially deadly pond and barrels, which I guess are also small and potentially deadly. Everybody, when going first, would immediately jump to this little outpost to grab a piece of the rocket cake, and Pin was no exception, immediately dishing out a 70 damage hit. Castor responded by drowning both that para and Pin's medic in 2 turns, deleting the former's missiles from the game and exploiting the latter's crappy spawn. Pin also dealt heavy damage in response, but crucially missed the kill on Castor's Grenadier due to an unfortunate play with a jetpack. Castor in the meantime was suffering from weird lag spikes which hindered a few of his shots and caused him to pause for a second occasionally. In any case, he was still in the lead, and all he had to do to secure the win was finish up Pin's Grenadier with a TNT he had picked up earlier.
I think he noticed he had a TNT in his inventory and then he's doing this to try it. Oh no!
Yeah. Ever wondered how it's possible that when AI pigs hide, sometimes they just don't? Well, that's because due to a bug, instant use weapons like hide and self-heal when selected extremely quickly end the turn so fast that their effect doesn't even apply. And Castor just straight up gave a turn away trying to speed select a TNT, but accidentally picking and failing a hide. The blue Grenadier thanked whichever god he believed in and kept fighting. In the end, Castor still had a chance to win it, as Pin was down to 10 HP. Once again, piece of cake, right?
He only has 31 health, he needs to close the distance and kill Pin's Grenadier right now, but he's getting a lot of lag. Oh no, don't, no, not on this turn. Not on this turn, please. Let's not decide the match with this. But he's going to take the jump? Really? No, just take the bazooka shot, dude. Oh no, it's going to down to the last second. He's gonna get the bazooka shot. He has to get the bazooka shot away. Oh no, it's lagging. Get him. Oh my god. And he runs out of time.
Castor is a chill dude, but after this one he was absolutely fuming, because now the match was tied again, and take a guess what map 5 was?
I'm just so mad right now. I'm just so mad.
Pin started the same way as the match with Fox, but Castor had a trick up his sleeve to show the world.
Oh, there's a way to jump in? I'm guessing it's pretty hard to do. Oh my god, he does it! Look at the level of skill by this guy.
The guys were seemingly committed to play this bridge the gap by distance, and they both had the long-range skills to sell their case. But then once again, Pin's medic made one step in the wrong direction, and Castor charged at him on full force. Damage was big, but not big enough to kill before Pin had a juicy chance to grab a jetpack and turn the Trank game around.
That is an unfortunate occurrence for Castor. Now Sanglier will be able to get back up and maybe trank someone. Ooh, never mind!
Galvanized by this, Castor proceeded to throw the rest of Pin's pigs down the ravine, and despite a couple of fluke gunner turns, he took the lead. The nail in the coffin though, and probably my favorite moment from the entire playoffs, was this. After the purple medic was out of tranks, Pin's paratrooper opted to get away to leave him rotting inside the gate with nothing to do, except fire grenade launchers. But in doing so, he used all of his jetpacks and positioned himself right outside. What did Castor do?
I guess just trying to grenade launch him, which is a great shot. It gets him back in. Wow.
That's not even the end of it, as when the medic predictably won the fistfight in there, he used the enemy's death to shoot himself out of there. Give this guy a parkour medal or something. Anyway, Castor won and he was celebrated as the first finalist. Meanwhile, it was time for the Italian job. Are you kidding me? The Italian job and you give me Mario music? You're fired. Get the freak out of here. Get out. So our map pool for the semifinal was scary at first glance. Starting on Pig in Hell, a map where going first is a big deal, and then Square Off, Machetino's favorite map, worried me, because I could be down 2-0 with ease if I lost the first coin toss. Therefore, I set out to figure the best optimization possible for Pig in Hell, so that even if I went second, I had a chance to win. Naturally, I went second, but Machetino started in an unusual safe mode, where his shots were consistent, yes, but a bit basic. The first conundrum of the game had me trade off a bit of damage to my own Grenadier to prepare Machetino's medic for poison. The turn order was perfect for it, and my Grenadier thanked me back with a chunky cluster of his own. While I played with numbers in a way my kills were efficiently delivered via poison and head jumps, Machetino kept playing relatively safe, until the survivors cornered up in one spot and the match started getting literally tight. After a mediocre positioning choice of mine, Machetino pulled off this beauty.
Think. Good.
One, gets
Oh,
two,
sweet.
gets the triple.
That was a great shot. That was really a great shot, yeah.
Gets the triple. ADB will be fuming, I think.
All three of my pigs were now under pressure, with the yellow team still boasting two relatively healthy pigs. Machetino easily took the first skip out of me, but then overdid the head jumping in the very next turn, which caused his scout to panic and run out of time for the sniper shot. A crucial plus 40 for the red side. As the scouts on each team were both approaching dangerously low health, once again I planned out a kill with some head jumps while also preventing a skip on my own guy with a carefully placed bazooka. It was now 1v1. Yellow Sapper on 76 HP and no TNTs versus Red Paratrooper, poisoned on 95 and no jetpacks. Machetino had 2 turns left and needed at least 150 on a shrapnel shot to win it, while I could only hope all fragments missed twice. Back then, shrapnels were not understood very well, so Machetino was just not up for the task. Words simply can't describe how happy I was that I beat Machetino on Pig in Hell while going second. I don't think I exaggerate when I say this is the map that I celebrated the most after winning it. But enough licking my own boots, it's time for Square Off. I knew Machetino's whole shtick was to take as many pillboxes as he could and force his opponent to either hide out or take consistent 40 hits from a distance, so I tried to prevent him from taking any of them as much as possible. But the spawns we got were really weird, with some overcrowded islands and some with a single pig on it. The match started pretty well for me though, with my scout being just the right guy at the right moment to take the jetpacks that drop on turn 6 and the super TNT for an early kill. Machetino made some easy mistakes throughout the beginning of the map, but then a sudden lag spike invested my paratrooper.
He's taking a while to make his decisions.
Oh!
That really cost him. I think that was due to the input lag.
I think so, yeah.
83 HP lost just like that on my own turn, and that was just the beginning of trouble. Mashe himself was a victim of lag, when after hitting a TNT he somehow missed jumping in the pillbox right in front of him. The final momentum shift was a turn that really shows how Machetino was the master of jetpacks back then. Firing all the way from here, he aimed for my medic, stared at the blimp up close like it was nothing, and then dropped my pig in the water. After a long swim, he also just managed to kill the other pig that was standing there on 7 HP. My lone-ass grenadier, which had been counting sheep the entire time since he was alone on his island, was my last chance, so Machetino charged at him like Machetino does. First he missed a water kill by an inch, and then pulled off the best use of an anti-P mine I've ever seen.
He's in a good place for that as well, considering how close he is to the wall, so that might...
Yeah, just the machine gun, just shoot.
Gets it away! Yep.
And hit.
But that might... Yep, gets him! Oh!
Oh my god,
plenty
that's
of
a kill.
damage.
That is
Oh.
a beautiful kill here.
At this point my men deserved the equalizer point, so our minds collectively shifted to map 3, P-Drag. By now, our focus was primarily on managing lag spikes coming from Pin's hosting. We went for astonishingly similar lineups, Scout first, Grenadier second, and also both medics in 5th. I can hear Nicholas twitching from here at that last one. The airburst from the tank didn't go very well for Mashe, while I somehow got a whooping 94 out of it, straight up erasing the yellow medic from the game right away. Machetino didn't focus my own medic, which made my job much easier when tranquilizers came in. Once the second cycle of pigs was up, the lineup mystery was solved. Both tanks were abandoned and left as bombs, with the hope the Grenadiers could use them next turn to boost their cluster damage to numbers unseen before. Little issue for Machetino was that his own Grenna was freezed, so I went ahead with my own business.
You need to get it like dead on, the tank won't be destroyed. No, it will.
It was just enough.
I'll go eat my own hat, look at that damage. Ooh.
I've been there before. You plan a strategy, you're proud of it, and then it gets thrown out the window 2 turns in. Machetino had taken a severe beating on this map, and my medic and grenadier were still alive and healthy, so the yellow team quickly got down to just 1 paratrooper. Said para did fight to the very end, using the exploit of mash stance as best as he could to get back to full health when my scout could hardly do anything about it. Body blocks happened once the wall was down, but lag and health difference just ate out the poor para. 2-1 for me, and yep, time for Bridge the Gap again. Hilariously, once again our lineups and first turns were almost exactly the same, as I had found out earlier in the league that you could open up with a mortar from a specific spot, destroy a crate on the other side while also getting good damage. So we both did that, and the rest of the pigs resorted to either sniping, mortaring, or air bursting from a distance. Medics were killed immediately, and our long-range skills were exposed as embarrassingly worse when compared to Castor and Pin's match from earlier. I did hit a couple of 50s, but that's only because I kinda learned the distance a mortar does when on default angles, so yeah, those kind of shots are the only ones I nailed really. It's kinda weird how much our strategy lined up back then, and multiple times even. Once the jetpacks in the middle appeared, pigs were dropped down, poisons were thrown, and sides were invaded, even at the cost of getting out a scout to your enemy. Poison prevention was also on point from both, and in the end we got to a 2v2. Machetino was under more pressure though, as my gunner was the healthiest of the bunch. The pressure made him fail the crucial kill on my low health guy, and at that point it was too late. A couple of bazookas was just enough to send me straight to the final. The rank up final from 6 months ago was about to have its sequel, and even as Pin announced this as the expected final, we both had our own struggles to get here. But this was the most important title. Being called the Hogs of War League champion was just too juicy to pass up. It was game freaking on. I swear this is the last time I'm mentioning this, but repeating maps really were a theme back then. From Castor's semi-final, Dambusters was back. From mine, Square Off and P-Drag were. To complete the ensemble, Ice Flow and the Lake, aka the maps we both played in the rank up final. But let's get to it. Dambusters. For the umpteenth time, we both went directly for the health crates as soon as we set foot on the... wait.
Just about... No, slips off the edge. And that's going to be costly.
Okay, well, Castor got the health, but damaged himself a bit. I was ready to take advantage of that mistake. Never mind. So for one reason or another, the game shifted immediately to my side of the dam, as Castor migrated all his pigs in an eye blink, carefully proceeding to put his scouts on top while repeatedly throwing bred pigs down. Castor's intention was probably to poison my entire team while it was busy with his close-range troops, and then strategically retreat his scouts back to his side of the dam to wait while I slowly die and eat my own liver. However, the number advantage on the bottom side of the dam and the presence of my medic made it just too easy to manage poison games for my single scout, better than Castor possibly could with his panoramic snipers over there. Skip turns were dropping like flies, and water damage was particularly nasty for the purple team. Hold on, I have to stop here for a second and talk about this shot.
But he will look to shoot the paratrooper if he has enough time. The scope is a little bit too slow. Oh, just about.
How the heck did that work? Whatever. As Castor was losing the battle down the valley, I struggled to get any damage on the top guys with long-range stuff. And then I noticed an even bigger flaw in Castor's plan. The dam is completely flat on top.
He looks to get the double again with the poison. Which he does, it rolls along, that should be good.
With two of my pigs still incredibly healthy, Castor had no choice but to get down to try to even the score. But his own double poisoning, albeit very nice, came in too late. 1-0 for me, and time for the lake. In these kind of maps, when you know you're going first, overthinking is your main enemy, and the lake will punish you if you waste good opportunities. And that's exactly what happened to both of us. When you want to throw somebody in a specific direction, cluster grenades just aren't your friends. Both of us got a static knockback and not even that good of a damage. But Castor wouldn't even have gotten a chance for a cluster if I hadn't committed the biggest sin of my game. Putting the Trank away because I thought I could push this guy to his death with a grenade launcher. Before the game could court-martial me and claim there's never been a worse general in charge of the Reds, Castor made his own big mistake when collecting guided missiles in a hurry created this unfortunate coincidence with a tree. Well, more like with the hitbox of a tree. Castor kept being just a little bit better than me throughout, while I kept finding myself in the wrong position at the wrong moment. Castor picked up on my difficulty to collect crates due to big distance and just hogged everything for himself, dropping a ton of missiles on my face. Trading blows for a while, I scored what is probably the only intentional out-of-bounds kill in my life, only to be replicated by Castor 3 turns later on my poor scout. The same exact out-of-bounds kill on the same exact pig of the rank up final, sizzling my hate for the mechanic. But I made way too many mistakes to deserve the win, so Castor gladly took the map home and set the final back to a tie. Back to square off, Castor had the first turn advantage once again. Another set of absurd spawns left the minefield island completely empty, which honestly I have never seen happen. That resulted in my grenadier taking cover in a pillbox for fear of retaliation, and Castor noticing that once again my third pig was right there, in the perfect position to grab the super TNT on his turn. The purple team desperately tried to kill him on long distance shots before that could happen, and not only they failed, but my guy was able to score a kill without even using the super TNT, leaving Castor with an even more pressuring threat. But the bazooka shots to get that dang super TNT guy just weren't connecting. Luck was on my side on square off this time, and that colorful exploding stick put myself in an advantage point that Castor had no chance to come back from. And after this one, if I won on Ice Flow with the first turn advantage on my side, I would be champion. Now picture this, you're one map away from winning the tournament, and when you drop down, you see this. What do you do? A. Celebrate. B. Freak out. C. Shrug and move on. If you picked B, you would be wrong, but also simultaneously right, because that's exactly what I did. Drunk on power, I just fired 2 jetpacks to poison the 2 enemies as fast as I could, and then realized I didn't exactly know how to end my turn. So I just flew away to at least save my paratrooper from poison. Castor instead, probably more focused than me, used his first turn to outright kill my medic, which was also standing there. And when my grenadier looked up and saw all of Castor's pigs on the high ground, I panicked again, and picked the dumbest move I could. Turn by turn, Castor did more damage and I was just doing next to nothing. Before I could blink, my team was down to a grenadier, a poisoned sapper with a death toll, and a scout that was being tranquilized enough to put an elephant to sleep. You know you're in deep trouble when you find yourself pondering which water pool is less dangerous to stay close to. To put it simply, it was a massacre, and my scout, being alone against 3, could only delay the inevitable. Well, that happened. Now it's time for the grand finale, isn't it? One single map deciding the winner of what to this day is the longest tournament ever. The final was our 11th match in 2.5 months, and even more brutal, consider the fact that we had played the semi-final on the same day, which means I was on the 9th map of the day, while Castor was on double digits, and with the constant threat of lag and disconnections. I honestly don't know how we weren't begging for mercy, because we certainly would today. Come to think of it, maybe I judge my mistakes too harshly so far? Nah. Amazingly, the set for the last act was to be the most unique map, P-Drag. I have to say, Castor's idea on how to manage tanks, albeit helped by the fact that he went first, was extremely clever. He started with a paratrooper and ignored the tank, going instead for both health crates, while you usually would go for 1 crate and 1 tank. A choice that rewarded him with a plus 70, and then jetpacked inside the walls to park his paratrooper in there to fire from a distance. He failed to get the bazooka out, but when I got my turn, I understood his move. Since I'm forced to use just 1 tank anyway, he left the first one to me, so he could still grab the second one on turn 3. But by doing that, he had gained an extra health crate. Even though I didn't take the bait of attacking a 200 HP paratrooper, my shots on Castor's medic weren't good enough, and I was punished right away in the form of a trank. Thankfully, I only skipped once because my trusty paratrooper was right there to help. And even though I was now the only one still with a medic, Castor practically put him in prison here. I set out to avoid poison shenanigans by killing Castor's scout, but crucially in doing so I forgot to take chance of Castor's grenadier, which was sitting on painfully clear poison skip range. A devastating mistake, which gave Castor an extra turn and a punch-up that would be just impossible to get out of. My primary target was now going to be well protected by my 2 pigs for 2 more painstaking turns. The 200 guy came out and solved the issue, but not in a satisfying way for me. My grenadier managed to halve his health with 1 last cluster, but my final, decisive mistake was that medic's positioning. When I saw that nothing could be done about that skip, it was too late. Castor triumphed, and I have to say, he deserved to. Not only was the most consistent and brilliant player throughout the league, but I was just too clumsy in the final to make a case for my own win. And although it was a great battle of wits and strategies, Castor was the one that delivered the best performance. So, the Austrian player took the title, and that was the end of this magnificent experience. We had many technical issues, of course, but Pin himself did a wonderful job in managing the whole thing essentially by himself. The most important thing, though, is that we were able to have so much fun just because we set on a journey to take a 20 years old game a bit more seriously than it was intended to be. We deserved a break, yeah, but we also sure as heck couldn't wait to do it again.